Ladies and gentlemen, I am here today because I've been receiving some feedback and some people have not been so forgiving because they are on the verge of calling me a false prophet after 1 year. You know, last week's show, it takes time, you have to be patient. And I said, by a time like this next year, you will, and I stated some of these things that you're going to have. But there's one thing I came to enlighten you to do because I know that so many of the people have been lured into such things, and I receive it in Jesus' name. But what are some of the steps and the practical steps that we are going to do so that we're in a position to see and to be sure that by the time like this next year, we will have exactly what we desired of from the Lord? This is the Faith Crusaders, and we are going to get to it immediately after the introduction. In the book of Genesis chapter 8 and verse 22, that is exactly where I want us to start by reading. And it says, "While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease." This is a very good word when it comes to whatever I spoke about. Because as much as we want to see God do great and mighty things in our lives, there are things that will never cease in our lives. And that is day and night. Seasons will come and they will go, and it will repeat this cycle over and over again. So that whatever God established and put in place, it shall come to pass. So from this principle, what can we draw out so that we can be in a position to see that as the times and the season come and it brings forth the desired result, we will also be in a position to see things happening in our lives because we follow the same principle in our lives. And the first thing that I want to tell you is this: you are looking forward for a harvest come next year. By a time like this next year, I want to have received this, I want to have received that. But here is the question: because seed time and harvest shall never cease, what have you planted? What are you planning to plant? And as much as it is raining and we're in the rainy season right now, there are people who have not planted. And they can continue saying that by a season like this next year, I will be reaping a lot of foodstuffs. No. And this is the first thing that I want to recommend to you. You are in the house called by the name of the Lord. You have people who have been elevated into that state of pastors and vicars and reverends and all those people that you know. And they are there telling you these things in your life, and you perceive it in your spirit that whatever is being spoken is about me, and there is nothing that you do about it. And then you think by a time like this next year, I will be holding my miracle. I tell you, that's not the truth. You're just living in a lie. And that is exactly why I came to tell you that for you to get to the place where God expects you to be, for you to reap the things that you're desiring to have next year, you need to plant. What are you going to plant when it comes to the things that you desire to achieve by the coming of the year? Take an offering in church and let the Lord know that this, I'm bringing it as an offering so that it can speak on my behalf concerning the things that I am actually presenting before you. I remember there was a time when I was serving at my home church. And by the wisdom of God, the patron by then was led by the Spirit for us to, as the leaders of the youth group, for us to come up with the seed. And we took it to church and we said, this seed is for holy marriages in this church. And it might have been many years ago, but I tell you right now, after that, the marriages, the holy matrimonies that we have experienced in our home church, it is overwhelming. Why? Because there is a person who was led by the Spirit to bring a change and to bring a transformation in our lives through planting a seed. The transformation that you need in your life, it is you to plant a seed. The second thing that I want to talk about today is this: what are you naming your seed? You know, God didn't create money. No, He created the seed. And when He created all things, He gave the man the power to name things. And the book of Genesis chapter 1 says that whatever man called the things that are in the world, God respected it. And He said, it shall be like that. So as you plant your seed, what are you naming it? Because if you want a child by next year, yes, I know the money that you have can't buy a child, but you can plant and tell God, you know, I can use this money for some other things, but I'm bringing it in your house. I'm bringing it into this place that I'm receiving this word for me to be in a position to experience your blessings and your overflow by a time like this next year. What have you named it? Is it business? Name it the type of the business that you desire to have. Is it, call it anything that you know that you desire it to happen in your life. And I tell you the truth, by the grace of God, at time like this next year, you'll be in a position to reap and reap abundantly. Number one, because you did so, and number two, because you named your seed. And I want to tell you this, there are seeds that will remain in the ground for quite some time. I have really studied about the bamboo tree, and it can stay underground for some time before it actually sprouts out, but immediately it starts sprouting out, immediately it starts bringing forth leaves. The speed with which it grows cannot be compared to the rest of the seeds that actually come together with it. So I'm telling you the truth. Yes, there are people who might experience even the blessing of God before the year ends. There are people who will experience the blessing of God by a time like this next year. And I am very sure there are people who it will linger, but I am very confident that when it comes, you'll be in a position to celebrate and say, the waiting was worth it. So these two things, sow, name, and then we'll see where God will bring us as we continue getting to be enlightened through the Faith Crusaders, where we are all about revealing Christ-like attitudes of awakening. God bless you, and see you in our next show.